I would like to welcome you all to Folds and to our reception. This is not how we would normally be doing this, and as you get to know us more, you will come to see that this is the very opposite of how we normally run. The value we put on our face-to-face interactions is huge. We have lots of siblings starting with us this year, plus a lot of first-time parents going through what is obviously a monumental step in your child's life. We're so excited to welcome both your children and you into our community. We are really passionate about the journey we are all about to embark on together, being fun, enabling and inspiring so that your child has the best primary education possible. You may be more nervous due to the current climate, but I therefore thought it was important for you to know that our current reception children have been in school since the second week of June, 3 mornings a week. And whilst they've all had to sit at tables in a way that they were not used to in the past, we have had 37 out of the 45 return, and each one has skipped in every morning as they are loving being back. That is a testament to the staff who work with them, supporting their confidence and resilience and making them feel so comfortable and safe in being back. So please don't worry. This may all be new, but looking after your children, making them feel safe, secure and ready to learn is something at Folds we are experts at. Let me start by telling you a bit about our school and what we believe in. As our school, our vision is to build a community of lifelong learners. What do I mean by this? We want everyone within our community, not just our children, but our staff and our parents, to have a love of learning, to keep challenging themselves and keep wanting to learn more and discover new things. We know that if our children gain a love of learning, that they can go on to achieve anything they may want to. This is something that our staff are really passionate about. And over the last 2 years, we've introduced the concept of growth mindset to our children to build the foundations for this. Growth mindset is the idea that your brain is a muscle that, like any muscle, with exercise can keep growing. Our children, as they move up the school, will start to talk about the learning pit. This is where, when they get stuck in their learning, where they face a new challenge. They learn that this is a great place to be, that the struggle to learn something new helps our brains to grow. Our children also understand that making mistakes is really helpful, a really helpful part of our learning, and that being in the learning pit, trying different approaches, and not necessarily being successful straight away is all part of that process. Whilst your child may not come home talking about these concepts, our reception curriculum helps the children to learn resilience, to not give up when something is tricky, and to really enjoy a challenge. There are lots of things around us to help us climb out of that learning pit. Our learning partners, resources, the adults in our classroom. Our school values link in beautifully with both our vision and growth mindset. Our 6 values, resilience, respect, teamwork, self-belief, kindness and responsibility, feed into everything we do. And before I pass you on to Mrs. Tree, I'll finish by explaining what those values mean to us as a school. Resilience. We are ambitious, determined risk takers. Respect. We value and listen to everybody as individuals. Teamwork. We all work together and support each other to build our community. Self-belief. We are brave, we are reflective, we try our best. Kindness. We are thoughtful, understanding, and care about ourselves and others. Responsibility. We are honest, take responsibility for our learning and the choices we make. We hope that these values resonate with you as much as they do with us, and that you will join us in our journey towards building a community of lifelong learners. If the opportunity arises, please do reinforce these values with your child. As I said at the beginning, starting at primary school can be a huge step for both you and your child. We work hard at Folds to make sure that that step is broken down and supported as much as possible so that it is manageable and incredibly positive. We are very passionate about making this the best experience possible for your child and for you. That said, we would normally have a few events for you all to attend. But this year, as I'm sure you'll understand, we will have to see and wait and see what we can do in September to help you get to know each other better. Since the end of March, Mrs. Tree and Mrs. Jadidi have been discussing how we can make sure your children can still have home visits in some form, and how they can still have an amazing experience at school. In September, our plan is for all of the reception children to form one bubble, and therefore be able to free flow in much the same way that they would have normally in the past. So all that is left for me to say to you is once again, welcome to Folds and to our community. It's great to have you with us. And on that note, I'll pass you over to Mrs. Tree.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Tree and I am the early years leader at Folds School, and I'm also the Apple class teacher. We have another class teacher who is Mrs. Jadidi in pair class, and I will show you some pictures of her soon. Normally she would be sat next to me. Normally we would be doing this meeting in the school hall and you would be sitting on a chair, probably melting because it always seems to be on the hottest day of the year. And I would be stood at the front and talking to you, probably telling some terrible jokes, and you would be politely sitting there pretending to laugh. Sadly, you're missing out on that, but at least you get to sit on your comfy sofa while you watch this. So I'm going to talk you through the slides. There'll be a little video of me in the corner, and hopefully you will be able to get a little taste of what school's going to be like, understand a little bit of what reception will be like, and understand what's coming in September as much as we can at the moment. I'm going to talk you through what our plans are. Obviously, they may change slightly depending on guidance or any changes to the situation in the country, but we're hoping to get your children coming in as smoothly as possible, and we're going to do everything that we can to make that happen. A little bit about me. I have been at Folds School for 5 years. This is my 6th year that is just going to start in September. And before that I worked in Edmonton for 10 years, and I've been in early years for a really long time. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I love teaching early years. I absolutely love the big changes in the children from the time they start to the end of the year. I love seeing the children learning in a really engaged and exciting way, and it's a real privilege to teach your children. I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the team now, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So I am the Apple class teacher, as I said, and there are usually 23 children in my class. And pair class is the other reception class, and Mrs. Jadidi is the teacher of that, and she usually has 22 children in her class. We have 2 fantastic teaching assistants. Mrs. Merchant is our teaching assistant from Tuesdays to Fridays. She doesn't work on Mondays, so on Monday we have the lovely Miss Lewis, and both of them are fantastic at getting children through the door in the morning when they're a little reluctant, and they're just brilliant at their jobs, warm and caring and really fun. On one afternoon or morning a week we have PPA time, so Mrs. Butler, who is a really experienced early years teacher, comes to cover one of the classes, and Miss Lewis covers the other one. I also get some management release time, so we have Mrs. Wilkinson come for that. I'll show you them on the next slide. So here are some faces to put to the names that I've mentioned. You can see me there. I'm wearing glasses in the picture. Sometimes I wear glasses, sometimes I wear contact lenses. You might want to let your child see both, because the children often comment when I wear glasses and I haven't for a while. They seem to find it a big difference, a bit like Superman and Clark Kent. Mrs. Jadidi is to my right, and she is a pair class teacher. She's been at Folds for a year or so longer than I have, and she is an extremely nurturing, warm, compassionate teacher who gets the best out of children. I've wanted her in early years for a while. This was her first year and she's really enjoyed it, and she's been brilliant. Underneath you'll see Mrs. Merchant, who, as I said, is the TA on Tuesdays to Fridays. She has been at Folds for a long time. Her children came to Folds, her grown-up children, and she even has a grandchild at Folds now. So she is very committed to the school and is brilliant. She's very calm, very patient, and really has a way of engaging children. And she's also really good at getting nervous children through the door, which may be helpful in the first few weeks of term. And next to her is Miss Lewis, who is in school most of the week, so your children may see her, but she's only our TA on Mondays. She is really fun and engaging and loves to be outside with the children, full of enthusiasm. She also will take one of the classes for a morning or afternoon for the PPA cover. And to her right is Mrs. Butler, who is another PPA cover teacher, and she has been teaching at Folds for a long time, so she works part-time now, but she may have even taught some of you. She has worked with us and in early years for a long time, and she is a brilliant teacher. Again, very warm, very nurturing, patient, kind, all the things you would want in an early years teacher. And Mrs. Wilkinson at the bottom is going to be covering my management time once a week, so that'll be for a couple of hours once a week, and she loves coming down to reception. She's again very calm, very patient, very warm, and I know that the children will love her. So for admissions and settling in this year, it's going to be especially interesting because of all the changes to guidelines and practices. So I do need to make you aware at this stage that this is what we are planning to do. However, it could change if we are given different guidance from the government before then, or if the R number were to change significantly, these things could change. But we want to let you know what the plan is, and hopefully it will go ahead as this. And if we do need to change it, we will let you know as soon as we know that we need to. So between the 14th and the 17th of September, the children will come in groups of 12. So there will be 6 from Apple and 6 from Pear. And they will come in the afternoon, so they'll begin at 1:30 in the afternoon, and they'll go home at 3:35, which is the time that reception will be going home for the whole year, unless anything changes in terms of bubbles, etc. So they will come in for that afternoon, and they'll be in a smaller group, so they'll have more of the adult time and attention, so we'll have a bit more of a chance to get to know them. And every group will get that chance where it's just their group and nobody else. After that afternoon, the children will begin coming in the mornings. So obviously the children who start first will then have the following morning with just their group, but the morning after that will be the group who started the following afternoon joining them as well. And that builds up to the end of the week when all the children are in. So when they're coming in just for mornings, it will be coming at 9:15, between 9:15 and 9:30, that 15-minute window they'll get. And they'll go home, be picked up by you at 12 o'clock. We're having to change the normal timings ever so slightly because we need to work around when other children will be in the playground and other children being dropped off, picked up, things like that. But they're getting a comparable amount of time that the children would normally get. From the 21st of September, that Monday, the children can stay for lunch, and they'll be staying for lunch and then coming back into class for about 45 minutes, and then they'll be picked up at 1 o'clock by you. So they'll get the morning, they'll get the lunch time, and then they'll get a little bit of time afterwards, because when they come the following week to start doing full days, they will have quite a long afternoon because of the way that we've had to stagger lunches and children coming and going, etc. Reception have quite a long afternoon slot, so it goes from 12:15 till 3:20, and we're going to manage that and make it as manageable as for the children as we can. I think they're going to really enjoy the time, but obviously we don't want them to go from having a really short morning to then staying all day and that being a real shock to the system. So we're kind of changing, having them in for a little bit after lunch, whereas we wouldn't normally do that. It says that all children will stay full days by the 28th of September. However, we can be flexible with that. If your child is not ready for that, we can work with you, but we would want to talk to you one-to-one about that, should that be the case, because obviously we'll need to work out timings, again based around bubbles, so that nobody is coming into contact with children from other bubbles, adults from other bubbles, etc. So you will get these dates sent to you, and just check them carefully. If there's any issues, let us know. So as a mum, I'm aware that it is a big step, your child starting school, Some of you have children at school already. Others of you are sending your oldest child to school for the first time, and it can be a shock to the system both times. I found it quite challenging with my first daughter because it was all new. Even though I teach reception, it's at a different school and everywhere is slightly different. That was a bit of a shock to the system. And then when my son started, obviously he's my baby, so it was different in its own way then. So it can be a bit difficult. And school can be a bit difficult as well because obviously most of you haven't been in one for a long time, especially not a reception class. You may have your own memories of what it was like, and it may be similar to what we have, and it may be very different. And all of your children have got their own strengths and areas that they need to work on, and things that they're interested in and not so keen to do. So what we want to do is support you in as many ways as we can. So we have evenings to support you. So we have an evening usually in the beginning of the second half term in November, which is a phonics and reading evening where we will talk to you about ways that you can support your child with reading, phonics and early writing. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in person. Possibly it might be me sitting talking to my laptop again, but we will make sure that you're getting that information. We put loads of information on our website as well, so that's always a good port of call. If you're not sure of dates or any information at all, have a look on our website. We do update it regularly. Of course, there's us, the class teachers and support staff. So usually in the mornings, it will be the support staff on the door so that the teachers are in the classroom. So we only have one door open when the children come in, and the TA for the day will be on the door welcoming them. So anything that you want to speak to us about, perhaps there's been something the night before, your child really didn't sleep well, they're really tired, you've brought them in but you want to just let us know that they might be not quite themselves. That's the sort of thing you can mention to the TA at the door. Things like that are important. We need to know that. If it's something more significant and you want to speak to the teacher, ideally we'd ask to speak to you after school, or you could put something on Tapestry that we could respond to, or we could call you back. It's better at the end of the day, or maybe we could call you at lunchtime or something if that was possible. But we're always around to speak to you, and we want to address any issues early on, so please do come straight to us if you do have any. We're really lucky at school that we have a learning mentor as well. Mrs. Coy is our learning mentor, and she works with children across the school who maybe need some emotional support or maybe a little bit of extra support in some areas. She's a really good resource to signpost you towards other areas that you can get support from as well. We have our Senko, Mrs. Kanji. So she is the Special Educational Needs Coordinator, and she works very hard to support all the children with special educational needs in the school and to help to support parents as well. We also have informal support, so we have parent reps, and they are a parent who will volunteer to pass on information. So if there is an event coming up, they will sort of take all your numbers if you give them permission and sort of text you out and remind you of things. Any sort of things to do with trips and things like that are coming up, they will keep you informed about things like that as well as us. And you also have Underhill Children's Centre. So we work with them. They are based in the Children's Centre at Underhill School. They usually have a full timetable of sort of events for younger children and things like speech and language support that they can give you and put in place. We don't have that at the moment, obviously, with the current situation, but when we do, I can forward that to you. This is just a short reminder to make sure that we have all your forms completed before your child begins, and that you keep us updated with your contact details. You may have moved house since you got your space with school. That's fine, let us know. We're not trying to catch you out, but we do need up-to-date contact details so that we can let you know of any changes, especially given the current situation and the fact that we may need to make some last-minute changes. Normally at this point in the year we would be welcoming you in for a play session, so that your child could come in and play in the setting and get used to the toys and resources we have. That can't happen this year, obviously, so instead we are going to make doubly sure that we get to do our home visits. Now, we're not going to be doing home visits in the way that we normally do. Normally we would come round to your house, come in, sit on the sofa and have a chat with you there. We didn't think that parents would feel safe with us coming in and out of so many houses, and didn't think that that was probably a good idea. So what we're looking to do this year is to either set up shop in Ravenscroft Park if the weather is good, and invite you to come to us there because it's quite local central place and we'll be outside, or we could offer a doorstep visit where we come to your front doorstep and have a chat there, or if you have side access to your garden, to do a garden visit where we can come around without going through the house, have a little visit and then come away. We would really like to do the visit in some form with your child there, so that they get to see us and you talking together and get to know that we are people that they can trust and that they feel secure with that. And it's also a really nice chance to share information on a one-to-one basis, so that you get to inform us of anything that you're worried about, or that you think is important that you wouldn't write in a form but you just want to tell us about. And it's a really nice handover time. We usually take the opportunity then to take a picture of the child for their peg with your permission, so that when they come in, their peg's ready for them with their picture on, they know it's theirs and it's something special for them. So you will be told about this visit in a letter that you'll get in the next couple of weeks, and they will be taking place between Monday the 7th and Friday the 11th of September. So we will let you know if it's a morning or an afternoon slot. We would love to give you an exact time, but we're not going to promise to do that, because sometimes we do need to spend slightly longer with one family, and so we might overrun. So we'd rather just say morning or afternoon, and so that you know roughly when to expect us. If you're away for some reason, if you're taking the opportunity to go for a last minute holiday before term begins, let us know and we'll see what we can do instead. We begin the year with the children in what we call registration groups. So they are based in Apple group or based in pair group, but that doesn't mean that they're in Apple class or pair class until October half term. We take the first half term to really get to know the children. Because we don't have a feeder nursery on site, and we have so many nurseries and preschools that the children come from, we really don't know the dynamics between the children, and we don't know which children will work well together, which children really will clash, which children get on a bit too well and will find it difficult to concentrate on the carpet. So we wait until October half term before we decide on the class for the rest of the year. Few things to bear in mind though. It doesn't matter that much to friendships, because your child will mostly be free-flowing between the two classes and our outside space. That will be carrying on this year. It's not something that we're stopping now. It's something that we're really looking forward to in September, the children being able to free flow again and to play with the reception as a whole cohort. So our bubble will be the whole of reception, not Apple class or pair class. Your child will not be excluded from playing with their friend or seeing their friend. If they're both in reception, they're together. There are very few things that we are separate for. So PE is separate, and our carpet sessions and the register are separate. We do separate songs for the Christmas show. That's pretty much it. Most other stuff is delivered, it's free flow play together. And something else to bear in mind is that when they move up to year one, the classes will change again. So it's not something that is set in stone for the whole of their school career. A quick note about school uniform. Obviously, you will be looking to buy this, and you should have a list in your pack of what the children need. But I will just advise you that you can get the basic uniform online from Brigade, and the correctly coloured items from Asda, Tesco, John Lewis, Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's, any big shops. If they're wearing a green cardigan or jumper, it doesn't have to be our logo jumper. That's absolutely fine. Some people choose to buy a logo one and save it for photo day. And the same thing with the t-shirts. So we don't expect logo t-shirts. I'm absolutely fine if your child wears a plain white polo shirt they wear, and you get in a pack of 5 from a supermarket. They're going to get dirty. They're going to get whiteboard pen and paint and mud and all sorts on them. So please don't go buying the most expensive one unless you want to. You don't have to do that. Basic uniform is absolutely fine. I all really recommend the short-sleeved polo shirts over the button-up white shirts. They look really smart and they're lovely. They're a bit of a pain on PE days. So if you do buy them, that's fine, but please just put them in a polo shirt on PE days, which we will let you know when they begin. It just makes it so much easier. The children are obviously encouraged to be as independent as possible, but we are there to help them, and helping lots of children with button-up shirts takes quite a long time. We say no jewellery, please. So if your child has pierced ears, they can wear stud earrings, but otherwise no jewellery. We need sensible shoes, so black, sturdy shoes that they're going to be comfortable in and they can run around in and play in all day. And I would strongly urge you to get Velcro or buckled shoes, please. If they have lace-up shoes, please teach them to do them themselves. There is not very much worse than going to help a child with shoelaces and they're wet, and then you realise it hasn't actually been raining that day and they've just been in the toilet. It's not the nicest. You don't need to get a PE kit until the spring term, so don't worry about that. If you've got it already, not a problem, that's great, but you don't need to buy one until Christmas because we're not going to be using it until after then. And when they have the PE kit, it needs to be kept in a drawstring bag, but it doesn't have to be the school one. The last thing I'll say on uniform is please label everything. Everything. I really mean everything. Socks, if you can. Often they've got a little band inside them, or write it on the soles of the shoe, of the foot rather. Shoes, label shoes. Children will come to school with the same shoes and they'll go home in a size 5 of one and a size 8 of the other. Underpants, yep, you'd be amazed how many times I turn around in PE changing sessions and there's a naked child there and they can't find their pants. Please just label everything. It's for your sanity and definitely ours. Lunch times. Lunches are obviously a really important part of the day, and from the 21st of September your child will be welcome to stay for lunch. So the children are all entitled to a free school meal currently until the end of year 2. So that includes the reception children. Alternatively, you might want to send them with a packed lunch, and it's completely your choice. Quite often when we do home visits, parents talk about their child being especially fussy and they're a bit worried about whether their child will eat the lunch. Sometimes the children will come in, see other children eating it and tuck in, and great, suddenly they like something new. Other times children just won't even try it. We are happy to give it a go. We're happy to, see how they do for a little bit with the school lunches, and if it doesn't work out, for them to change to packed lunches. Further up the school and also later on in reception, if they want to change from one to the other, then we like to have a few weeks notice to do that so that the catering team can change the orders. But especially at the beginning of the year, that's absolutely fine. We just ask that you don't chop and change from one day to the next, that you stick to either packed lunches or either school dinners for sort of prolonged periods of time. With the packed lunch, please don't send in any glass bottles, any cans, no sweets or chocolate. And we are a nut-free school, so please don't send in any nuts or seeds because we have lots of children with allergies. So attendance. We keep to the guidelines issued by the local authority and the Department for Education. Obviously, there are different guidelines taking precedence at the moment, but we're sticking to the most recent and the ones that we're given at any given time. It's really important that the children are dropped off and collected on time. Largely for the children, because it's very upsetting for them if they're not. It does also interfere with the running of the classroom, but especially from September, there will be other drop-off slots throughout the school where only the parents of those children are allowed to drop off the children. So if you arrive too early or too late, then you won't be allowed into the school site because you'll be crossing bubbles. So it's really important that you stick to the times that are given to you. If there are extenuating circumstances, then do call the office and speak to them and they'll tell you what to do. So the school day for reception from September will begin from 9:15. So there's a 15-minute window there from 9:15 till 9:30 for drop-off. We will be having lunch early at 11:15, and then the children will be able to play in the infant playground until 12:15. Then they will come in and we'll have quite a long afternoon, but it will be broken up, and we're going to manage that so that the children don't feel like it's a long and exhausting afternoon, and so that the staff don't too. And at 3:35, that will be when you can collect your reception child from the playground. We will go over this all with you in September and make sure that you're really clear of it. If you have questions, you can call the office or email or ask on Tapestry once your account's set up there, or speak to us at your home visit. If your child is going to be absent because they're ill, then please call on the first day of absence, and then when they come back, send a letter in as well to cover that. If you want to take some time off during school term, Miss Sanet usually covers this area, but I'm sure she would say that she does not approve holidays during term time unless it's for particularly extenuating circumstances. So if there's a funeral and you have to travel for that, or a once in a lifetime occasion that could not be avoided, then you can speak to Miss Sanet and see if she can give you approval there. But as a general rule, holidays are not permitted during term time. In terms of health and safety, there are a few things to mention. We can give medicines at school that are prescribed by your doctor. It must have the label on from the pharmacy so that we can see their name and the amount that we are to give them. And we'll ask you to fill in a form when you bring it in. Quite often, doctors will prescribe 2 bottles of the same antibiotic if that's what they're taking, so that we can keep one in school and you don't have to worry about taking it home at the end of every day and then being in trouble if you've forgotten that. We can only give medication such as antibiotics if they are prescribed for 4 times a day, because if it's 3 times a day, they could have it in the morning before school, after school, and in the evening. If your child has an inhaler that they need regularly, then we can give it to them at the time that they need to have that. That's fine. We can include that in their care plan. And if they need an EpiPen in school, then again, we'll need to do a care plan, but we are absolutely okay to give that to them as that's needed as well. If your child has an illness or a complaint, something contagious, ringworm for instance, or chickenpox, then we have the policy for that illness and how long they need to take off on our school website. And in terms of diarrhea and sickness, we're very, very strict with that. They must stay at home for 48 hours following the last incidence of that, because it can spread very quickly, especially in reception class. We ask that all the children whose hair is longer than shoulder length have their hair tied back, because we don't want to risk the children sharing head lice. We have a no nuts policy in school, and we include seeds as well, so please don't send your child with any of those foods. And again, no sweets and chocolates. So if your child has a birthday, in some schools they will allow you to bring in sweets and chocolates for all their friends. I'm afraid that we are a healthy school. We have it on our headed paper, Little Healthy Schools Award, and we're very proud of that. So if you wanted to bring in a treat for your children's friends, for instance, on their birthday, I'd advise something like boxes of raisins or small fruit yo-yo snacks, things like that. Please make sure that when you're bringing children to and from school, especially given the fact that we are having to stagger starts and be really careful about the bubbles, please supervise your children at all times with that. It can be really easy to get chatting and for the children to wander off, and that obviously needs to be watched, because we don't want all the children engaging between the bubbles. And please, if you're using the car to come to school, make sure you park safely, that you're not on the zigzags, you're not over people's driveways, because we want to make sure that we're being considerate for the residents. In terms of COVID-19, there will be updated policies often on our website, and at the moment there is a section under the parents area which is for COVID updates, and our most recent risk assessment in terms of children returning to school is on that, so you can view that and you'll know what to do. But just as a bare minimum, just make sure you know that if your child's showing symptoms, they have a temperature or a persistent cough, or they've lost a sense of taste or smell, or whatever the most recent list of symptoms will be come September, please don't send them in. Please get them tested, and please keep them isolated for as long as you are told to do so. You might see, as I'm going through some more of the slides, some terminology that is unfamiliar to you. So there's a bit of a jargon buster here. EYFS is the early years foundation stage, and that is the framework that covers from age 3, age 2 in some preschools, up to 5, and it's the things that the children need to know. Then KS1 is Key Stage 1, which is years 1 and 2, ages 5 to 7. KS2, Key Stage 2, which is ages 7 to 11, and that's years 3 up to 6. SEN refers to special educational needs. The SENCO is a special educational need coordinator, and the EYFSP is the early years foundation stage profile, and that is what we submit to the borough at the end of the year, and it says whether the children have met the early learning goals that are in front of them, which I'll talk about in a minute, or if they've exceeded them, or if they're emerging towards them. So the early years framework is basically what we are working to teach the children within. It's not a curriculum per se, because we're not told exactly what the children should be taught, but we are told what they should be able to do at the end. And it's broken up into 7 areas of learning, and 3 of them are what we call prime areas, and they're called prime because they're the ones that come first before they can build on the other ones, which are the specific areas. So they have personal, social and emotional development, physical development and communication and language, and they are the really key areas that all the children need to be able to work on, so that they can then work on the other areas, which are literacy, maths, understanding the world and expressive art and design. Each of those 7 areas is broken down a bit more, so that altogether it makes 17 early learning goals. If you want, you can pause the video at this point and have a look at them there. They're all on the screen in front of you. So all 17 of the aspects on the right has an early learning goal that the children will work towards. These are readily available online. If you just Google early learning goals, they're there. Bit of a word of warning, the government want to change those next year. So we're still working on the current framework this year, but next year they are changing, so there are some pilots going on in some schools with the new early learning goals. So just make sure that you're looking at the current ones if you do Google that. A really key part of the early years framework and in learning in general are the characteristics of effective learning. And these are things that it's kind of skills and attitudes that the children will show and develop that will help them to learn in all areas. These characteristics are what we have to report to you on at the end of the year. So when we are doing observations on Tapestry, which I'll talk to you about soon, we might mention these as well. So you might see them listed at the bottom of an observation of your child. They're broken down into 3 areas: playing and exploring, which is to do with engagement; active learning, which is more to do with motivation; and creating and thinking critically, so it's that kind of deeper thinking. And the children will kind of show different aspects of this at different times, but it's kind of about developing children who are interested to learn, children who are wanting to learn, independent learners, and these characteristics are really key to that. Now I'll touch on what learning in reception looks like. I've put routines at the top of the list because they're a really important part of our school day. The children need to know what happens when, so that they feel safe and secure and ready to learn. So from the afternoon that they come in first, we introduce them to where their peg is, so where they put their coat when they come in, where they can put their bag in their own special tray, what happens at tidy up time, what happens when the teacher wants us to come and sit on the carpet, and all those little things that they can worry about and will just make them feel more comfortable, more secure. From their first day, they're able to interact with the activities and resources in Apple, Pear and outside, so we'll be able to make them feel familiar with those as well. If we are doing activities that are planned activities, then we plan them with specific learning objectives based on the 7 areas of learning. But a lot of our learning is through the children's interests. So when we are planning those activities, we will take into account their interests. And if, for instance, we've got a cohort who are obsessed with dinosaurs, then we might use a lot of dinosaurs for provocations and starters to get them going. But we don't tend to have preset topics. We will have sort of some rough themes that are taken from the children's interests, but we do sometimes introduce some new topics as well. because we want to encourage them to think about new things, or we may have a storybook that the children we think will find exciting and engaging, and we can get lots of learning from, and we want to challenge them and broaden their horizons. But for instance, if we planned a week of working on fairy tales and the children just want to play with trains and planes, we're not going to flog a dead horse. We're going to go with their interests. Really, we want them to be interested. And the adult-led activities are quite a minimal part of the day. Largely, we're interacting with the children through their play, through their child-initiated play, and responding to them. And a lot of our teaching is done in that way. We are in our outside classroom in all weathers, especially Miss Lewis. She really loves it out there. So do make sure that your child has got appropriate clothing. We always say there's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. So make sure that they've got a properly waterproof coat. That can be really, really great, especially in the mud kitchen and at the water table. If they've got a coat that is that absorbs water, it will gradually, the longer they're out there, get wet. But if they've got a truly waterproof one, especially one with good cuffs, that's going to really help them. And we spend our time supporting the children's learning, observing them, seeing where they are and where they're going to go to next. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. So this is a quick visual representation of our observation, assessment and planning cycle. So we always start with the child at the centre. That's the most important thing. Their interests, their areas that they have strengths in, areas that they want to develop and that they need to get better at. So we start with the child. We start by looking at them, listening to them, taking note of where they're at and meeting them on their own terms. And then we will assess that. So we'll look at our observations and say, okay, so where is this child? What do we need them to be able to do next? How are we going to get them there? And using that information, we will then plan what to do next. So we might plan some particular experiences that we might want them to have. We might plan to put out some different resources or get someone in to visit to talk about something that interests them. And then again, we'll observe and then assess and plan again. Some of this is something that we do in a long term, over a year. Some of it will happen week by week, and some of it is very much in the moment. So some of this stuff will happen during the course of an interaction with your child. So we will see them doing something, we'll think, okay, this child needs to do X or Y. We will introduce something new to the interaction and conversation, move the child's learning on, and then the cycle will begin again. So it's not something that just refers to long-term planning. It's very much day-to-day, moment-by-moment planning as well. So I feel I have to say this. Learning in reception at Folds is interactive and it is very often messy. I will try not to send your child home filthy every day, but dependent on your child, I can't promise that I won't. Some children will happily sit and just play with things that are not so messy all day and not go near any of the messy things. Others will head straight for them, and others will do a mix of both. We have a mud kitchen, we have paint, we have Play-Doh, we have coloured water, we have children splashing in puddles and painting in puddles, we have them making potions, we have them creating elaborate pumps and pulleys and pipes in the water tray. We have them cooking and eating and trying new things. So mess is very much a part of that. And if we're worrying about trying not to get messy, then we're not putting as much as we could into our learning. It's something that they will get better at. As the year goes on, they might be able to control things more. But in the early stages especially, learning is going to get messy. This is why I say that I'm very happy for you to send your child in stained but clean shirts. If all the stains don't come out when you wash them, I won't be judging you. Whiteboard pen in particular is really difficult to get out of clothes. So as I said, go for the cheaper polo shirts. Don't worry about the logoed ones. Maybe get one for photo day. But don't feel that anyone will be judging you if your child has got stains on their t-shirt, because that's very much part and parcel of reception. Since you have probably logged into Tapestry to view this video, I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on Tapestry, but I will just explain, for those of you who are new to it, that Tapestry is our online learning journal, and we use it to record important moments in children's learning, and to make assessments that will help us to inform our judgments at the end of the year. So we will be making them all visible to you, so you can see the learning and you can see what activities your child is doing at school. And we also will put assessments underneath towards the early years foundation stage framework and the early learning goals, and also the characteristics of effective learning. We also use Tapestry as a kind of newsletter as well. So we do have the boomerang letter, which will go home to you every Friday, and that will tell you lots of information about what we've been doing, what we will do, etc. But Tapestry is a really immediate way as well. So if, for instance, we did a whole class activity, rather than tag each individual child in it, we would put it on the whole class account. And I also use that to inform you about things that are coming up in the timetable, in the calendar, etc. Hopefully you'll all be familiar with Tapestry and have already signed up for it. Thank you for everyone who has and returned the forms. That's fantastic. It's our online learning journal, and each child has their own account, and we also set you up for a class account so that we can show you things like trips and visits and things that all the children have been doing. A really popular thing every year is when we get the duckling eggs in. There's a lot of activity on our reception class account then, and it looks like this. This is just a picture from an observation, so you'll see a title, the child's name, picture possibly of what they've been doing, and then some notes underneath about it. You can comment on it, and we will also add some assessments underneath too, to do with the early years framework and the characteristics of effective learning. You are also able to upload observations and pictures and videos from home, so it might be that your child just won a medal at an out-of-school club, or there's something that they've done at home, or somewhere they've been that they really want to show us. Please do upload videos and pictures and notes to Tapestry to tell us that, because we can either share it just between your child and us and talk about it, or if they want us to, we can show the whole class, and that's something that they often feel really, really proud about. So assessment in reception at Folds. Your child's not going to be sitting down doing a test. We're not going to give them a book at any time, or booklet with a pencil and ask them to fill it in, or sit at a computer and do a test. That doesn't form part of our practice. We are doing baseline, but we use the information that comes from your child's preschool and nursery, that comes from you, and that comes from us observing them and interacting with them and getting to know them in the first few weeks. We're not using the pilot of the government's new baseline test this year. Each area of learning has got an early learning goal, as I mentioned earlier, which forms the EYFS profile. And we are always thinking about all of those areas and assessing against them. So every time that we are interacting with your child, we're thinking, what are they showing me? Where do they need to move on from here? And we're constantly monitoring their progress towards those early learning goals. We also have termly meetings where we will meet with Miss Sanet and Mrs. Ingle and talk to them about where your child is and who might need a bit of extra support. If there's any particular children who are doing really well in one area but perhaps not so much in another, and might need a bit of intervention to support them with that. Those kinds of conversations take place regularly. We have conversations between our team each week in planning, and every day, in our day-to-day conversations with and about the children, we're constantly thinking of those things. You will see that we make little assessments on the observations on Tapestry. So underneath any observation, we will highlight any areas that the children are showing that they're working within, and we'll also comment on the characteristics of effective learning that I mentioned earlier. Mentioned one earlier doesn't make much sense, does it? Your child will be a focused child in the autumn term and the spring term, and that means that we will assess their interests and ask you about them. We'll ask you to fill in some notes about where they are, what you'd like them to learn, what they would like to learn, what they love to do, what they find a bit trickier, and then we work with the child all week around those areas, so they get a real kind of a boost that week, and then we'll invite you in the following week to discuss all that with you and the next steps and set some targets for them. But that said, we are constantly sort of letting you know about these things via Tapestry as well. So it's not just the case that they only have 2 weeks that they have a focus. We're obviously working with all the children all the time. It just means that they get a specific week where they kind of get a lot more of our time, and they may get to do extra special things like some more of the cooking that we're doing that week, or some special jobs because it's their special week. And in June, at the end of the year, we are asked to submit the EYFSP to the borough, who then pass it on to the Department for Education, and we will also pass on that information to you. Your child will either be emerging, which means that they're working towards the early learning goal. They will be expected, which means they're working within it, or they will have exceeded it, which means that they've gone beyond it. So how can you be involved in your child's school learning? And how can you be a part of the Folds family? Well, I'll say that you already are part of our Folds family. As soon as you've taken up your space, you've become part of the Folds community, and it's something that we are really proud of. We feel very much that school is a partnership, and we want to work with you to support you and your child so that everybody is getting the best that they can. We want to work to make the children independent. We are really, really keen on that. It's quite tempting, I know, when I picked up my children, that as soon as I arrive, they will just try and give me their bags, and we want to encourage them to sort of carry their own bags, put their own coat on, and do as much as they can so that they can be independent people, and that they don't arrive for the first PE lesson and sort of present me with a PE bag and stand there waiting for me to dress them, because we want to make sure that they can be independent and access what they need to when they're in a bigger class with only the one adult. You can help us to teach the children to do that. So you can teach them how to put on their shoes, you can teach them how to put on their coat, how to take jumpers off without getting stuck in them. All those skills are really, really important. You can help to read with them, and if we send any suggested home activities home, to support them to do those. I will say at this point that we do have a boomerang folder each week, and we'll put a suggested home activity in there, and we would love it if you did that each week, but we're not going to penalise anybody who doesn't. You can interact with our online journals, so you can comment on any observations we put on. You can just like them in sort of a social media kind of way. You can ask questions. As I said before, you can upload your own pictures and videos, and that's really helpful. You can engage with the boomerang folder, as I said, which we'll be sending home, and it has home learning in there. It has a list of the sounds that we've learned in phonics. It has requests for things like junk modelling and anything that we might ask to be brought in, and reminders of things, important dates that are coming up, like Christmas shows or all sorts of activities like that. You can talk to your child about their day, and you might get told that they didn't do anything and they can't remember, and they didn't eat anything at lunch. But it's worth sort of asking a bit about what their favourite part of the day was. Who did they see? Did anything make them laugh? Just asking a few questions. You can make sure that your child is picked up every day and brought in on time, and you can meet with us and engage with us when it's your child's focus week. Giving us that information and then coming to discuss it with us afterwards is really important. You can access the Folds newsletter and the website, and you can come along to any fundraising events and activities when we're able to restart those. They are really, really crucial part of the Folds community. We will have Toasty Fridays and a cooking rota when we are allowed to. That is where parents come in and make toast for the children on a Friday morning, or come in to support the children with cooking. But at the moment they are indefinitely on hold, because we don't know when we're going to be allowed to have parents coming in with the children in class, or any outside visitors, in fact. But hopefully we will be able to do that before the end of the year. I would really hope so. And again, with trips, at the moment we don't know what the situation will be with trips, but if we are able to have those and need parent helpers, then you can come and help on those too. You can send us your old rubbish for junk modelling once we're given the go ahead to do that as well, and you can talk to us. So this is a really crucial one. If something's bothering you or your child, tell us straight away so we can sort it out. It can sometimes escalate in your mind and become a really big thing where actually if we'd spoken early on, we could have put your mind at ease and you needn't have suffered, hours or days of anxiety about it. Sometimes it might be the case that you've been talking about it with another friend, and then it just becomes a big deal, and actually it can usually be sorted out really, really quickly and easily if you come to us, and we can just get it sorted and reassure you early on. And also, once PTA events resume, you can join in with those. So you don't have to join the committee to do that, although if you would like to, that would be great. But you can help out just on an ad hoc basis with things like quizzes and discos and the school fair, things like that. I'm really hoping that we can get some of those things going again soon, and they are a really, really fun time. Further ways you can be involved in the Folds community are through, as I said, through the PTA. You can help out with the fundraising. You could be a class rep or engage with the class reps. And there will be forms given to you so that you can find out how to do that. You could run for a position as a governor if one comes up. And we usually have a reception social event in the first few weeks of term, which obviously we cannot do at the moment, but our PTA have assured me that they could do that at very short notice. So if we are given the go-ahead to start having events like that again, we could do that. And it's usually something that we do in the playground with some snacks and drinks. There's usually a bar, and we do it after school so that you can get to know each other, and the children can play together, and we're there as well so that you can talk to us and ask any questions that you might have. I'll end by saying we really look forward to you and your child joining us in September and becoming part of reception, but not just that, part of the Folds family and the Folds community. If you do think of any questions that I haven't answered here, then you can call or email the office, or you can send a message on Tapestry when your own individual account is set up, and we will answer that as best we can. I hope you have a lovely summer, and we look forward to seeing you.